Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today what we are going to be going over is basically how I am going to predict the 2020 House election. So what I used for this was, of course, 538 polling, the recent polling. I used the JHK forecast. I used the previous 2018 election results. Along with just some of my general knowledge and just me looking at different factors for each race, the amount of influence outside influence that's being put into each race, and I just kind of came to my conclusions through that. So, right now there are 85 competitive races that I characterize as competitive. Basically what I mean by competitive is if it's 15 points or under, or even if it is 15 points or under, if the other party actually has a notable candidate and they're willing to pump in the money and the resources to actually try and flip that seat. So they're really trying to flip it towards the other side, and yeah. So starting out in the Northeast, we start with a pretty difficult district to call, which is Maine's 2nd Congressional District. Back in 2018, the incumbent Republican actually won, but due to Maine now having ranked choice voting, a lot of the third-party candidates that were in the election actually went to Jared Golden, due to the fact that neither of the top two candidates received 50% of the vote. So it shows on how he does have quite a large support from the third-party candidates in the state of Maine. And because he is the incumbent, and despite the fact that Trump will likely win Maine's 2nd Congressional District on the presidential level, on the House level, I'm giving this to the Democrats. Currently, New Hampshire's 2 districts are also competitive. New Hampshire's 2nd Congressional District, I 100% see that going towards the Democrats. It went to Custer back in 2018 by about 13 points, which is, again, pretty insane. And New Hampshire's 1st Congressional District, a little closer. It does have a Republican leaning, but again, it did go to the Democrats in quite a large margin back in 2018. So I'm again going to give it to the Democrats. Now going over to the state of New York. This is quite a wild state, mainly the competitive districts being in upstate New York. For New York's 21st Congressional District, I only rank this as competitive as Elisa Stefanik's challenger, Tedra Cobb, has had quite a bit of fundraising against her, but it has kind of been dialing down in the recent months, so I have a feeling that it will stay in Elise Stefanik's column. For New York's 27th Congressional District, there was another election during the primaries to see who would replace the incumbent after he left the seat vacant, and the Republican won by quite a decent margin. So again, I'm going to keep that in the Republican column. New York's 23rd and 24th Congressional District, I'm also going to put those in the Republican column. I have a feeling that they will be targeted by Democrats, but the Republicans have seen that in the 2018 midterms where they need to put their money in, and saving upstate New York for the Republicans is likely where they're going to try and invest that money. For New York's 22nd Congressional District, it was super close back in 2018, but Brzezinski did win. That's actually really difficult to call. I'm actually going to flip this into the Republican column. I have a feeling that as much as Joe Biden is going to outperform Hillary Clinton in the general, the margins still aren't going to be as large as they were in the 2018 midterms, and this is not necessarily a blue wave by any means, so I'm going to have that in the Republican column, the first flip of tonight, or of this map. New York's 19th, I think it's going to stay with the Democrats, went to him by a decent margin back in 2018. Now for Long Island, Lee Zeldin, I believe he's not running for re-election. So this might pose a bit of a advantage for the people trying to get this. This is a trending, more Democratic area. I believe that this did go for Donald Trump by quite a decent margin back in 2016. So because of this, because it is an open seat and Democrats actually tend to do a little bit better in open seats, I'm going to give this to the Democrats, being the first flip for the Democrats tonight. And then in New York's 2nd Congressional District, I'm going to keep it with Peter King. I believe that there was a recent, oh wait, Lee Zeldin is running. I don't know why I said that. Actually, I didn't see this poll before. I think I might keep it with Zeldin, because Zeldin is actually quite a popular figure in the district. I think I was actually flip-flopping the 1st and 2nd districts. But I'm going to keep these both in the Republican column. I believe Peter King actually was doing quite well in polling, if I am not too mistaken. So because of that, I'm going to keep that in his column. And going on to the state of New Jersey. New Jersey's 3rd Congressional District, it did go to Andy Kim by a very small margin back in 2018. It was a part of the wide amount of flips in 2018 in the New Jersey legislature, where the Democrats really did help retain their majority and expand on it with only one remaining Republican seat. Now there's actually 2 due to the fact that Jeff Van Drew did switch over to the Republican Party. So I'm actually going to keep the 3rd Congressional District with Jeff Van Drew. I mean, not Jeff Van Drew, Andy Kim. And this is the 2nd district. I'm going to keep with Jeff Van Drew due to the fact of incumbency and the fact that it did go to him by quite a decent margin. So just because of that fact, I think that maybe some of his supporters, even if they are Democrats, are going to vote for him again. Going over to the state of Pennsylvania, I'm going to give the 16th Congressional District over to the Republicans. Wait, do I want to do that? No, actually, I'm going to give it to the Democrats, because Joe Biden's really going to outperform in Pennsylvania. I have a feeling that Pennsylvania will actually be to the left of Michigan and Wisconsin, which might seem a little crazy since Michigan was not as close as like Michigan, for example, in 2016. But I have a feeling that Biden's really going to perform well in Erie County, where this district lies in. And in Pennsylvania's 10th Congressional District, I think it's going to go to the Republicans. I also think that Pennsylvania's 1st is not necessarily a topic for discussion for competitiveness, as the Republican is pretty well liked and has been leading in polling recently by quite a bit. See, Fitzpatrick plus 14. So because of that, I'm going to keep that in the Republicans column. Going over to the state of Virginia. Back in 2018, the 5th Congressional District went to the Republicans by a decent margin. I have a feeling that they're probably going to keep that margin. Virginia is, however, going to become a more and more likely Democratic state as time goes on. So I wouldn't be surprised if eventually all of the Republican districts in Virginia were to flip blue. Maybe not in Western Virginia. I have a feeling that they might stay red, but also, Abigail Spanberger making a name for herself in the House already. She's going to retain her seat along with Virginia's 3rd and 2nd Congressional Districts. Virginia's 2nd was also super duper close back in, I don't know why the 3rd. But Virginia's 2nd District was quite close back in 2018. I have a feeling that she will keep her seat, though, mainly due to the fact of incumbency. Incumbency really is everything. So, now going over for North Carolina. Both of these districts are going to go to the Republicans. I don't really see any way for the Democrats to really pick up momentum at this time to flip these districts, especially with COVID not allowing for campaigning as usual. Due to the redistricting, I have a feeling that these districts are a lot more Republican and these are a lot more Democrat. So the gerrymandering does not necessarily make the Democrats at so much of a disadvantage as they once did, but I have a feeling that these are still going to remain Republican. Going over to South Carolina, I have a feeling that Joe Cunningham is likely going to be unseated. This might seem a little weird, especially considering the fact that Joe Biden's likely going to reduce Hillary Clinton's margin in South Carolina by quite a decent amount, due to the fact that he has been polling within single digits in the state of South Carolina, and I have a feeling he will do between 5 to 10 points. But the Republicans are really focusing a lot on this race, and they don't want to lose this race, so they're probably going to try to flip it. Going over to Georgia, Lucy McBath, she's going to retain her seat. I have a feeling that it's probably leaned a likely margin at this point. She has made herself a name in the House, and her constituents seem to like her. And in Georgia's 7th Congressional District, again, probably going to be one of the closer races, as it was in 2018, only being decided by about 400 votes, which is absolutely insane. The Republican candidate is not running for re-election. However, I do think that the Democratic candidate is running for the seat again, and I have a feeling that she will actually make it this time. Going over to the state of Florida, I have a feeling that the 15th Congressional District will go to the Republicans, along with the 18th, along with the southern tip of Florida also remaining Democrat. There's no real like super close races. I know that the 26th Congressional District with Mercasel Powell, she was quite close back in 2018, but in the JHK forecast, I know that they're projecting that she wins it by 12.3 points. And with Joe Biden already outperforming Hillary Clinton's margin being up by like 7 points right now, which I think is unrealistic, but the fact that the Republicans did win in Florida, like statewide, back in 2018, the fact that they're just going to improve the House margins and the down ballot races, that's only going to help her sail to victory. Next up, we're going to go to the state of Arkansas. I have a feeling that this is not going to really be super competitive. French Hill, quite popular. The Democratic candidate has not been raising enough money to really unseat the incumbent, so that's what I think. Going over to the 6th Congressional District of Kentucky. Again, Amy McGrath is not the candidate. She's running for Senate. So last time it was a little closer, but there was a lot of nationwide media attention on this race. She really did have a lot of people behind her, and the fact that she did not win, and I think she did lose by a bit, yeah, about 3 points. She lost. So because of that, I have a feeling it's going to stay in the Republicans. In the state of Ohio, I have a feeling the 12th and the 1st are going to stay for the Republicans as well. In the state of Michigan, the 3rd Congressional District is quite tricky to predict. It is difficult because Justin Amash, I don't believe he's running for re-election. It is a little bit difficult to try and find out what exactly he is going to do. The fact that he did become a libertarian did upset a lot of his constituents in his district, but I still think that this is a solid red district that even, no matter how much Joe Biden really outperforms Hillary Clinton, it's going to remain for the Democrats. For the 6th Congressional District of Michigan, I actually have a feeling that this is going to go for the Democrats. In a recent poll, the Democratic candidate was up by 20 points. I know that this is a Gravis marketing poll with a lower amount of sampling size, and it is just likely voters, but I do think that this is so significant because the fact that this was already somewhat of a close race back in 2018, going to the Republican by about 5 points, the fact that the Democrat is leading by so much is quite notable, and it's going to make me flip this to Democrat. For Michigan's 7th, I have a feeling it's still going to remain Republican. Alyssa Slotkin, again, I don't think she's quite liked by her constituents in her district, but however, I do think that she is going to retain her seat due to the fact that Joe Biden is likely going to lead the down ballot races to victory, as he is going to likely win the state of Michigan, and Michigan's 11th is also going to go for the Democrats. I would also characterize Indiana's 5th as a competitive district, but just for time's sake, I'm going to say it's Republican. In the state of Wisconsin, the 3rd and 1st districts, I said that they are somewhat competitive, but regardless, I have a feeling that they're going to stay in their respective parties. In the state of Illinois, their 13th Congressional District, I could have sworn that they had a recent poll that came out. I guess not. Here, let's see if we can find out on the forecast. If it's going to look. It's not. So, I have a feeling it's going to stay for the Republicans. He is the incumbent Republican. He did very narrowly win back in 2018. And Illinois has been trending more Democratic, but I still think it's going to stay for him. And Lauren Underwood, I think she's also going to retain her district in the suburbs of Chicago. So going into the state of Iowa, I have a feeling that it's likely going to stay the same. The party composition is going to stay the same. Even though Trump is likely going to win the state of Iowa, and Steve King is no longer going to be running in Iowa's 4th Congressional District. If he were to, I would have actually rated this as a Democratic seat. But the fact that he wasn't seated and now there is a more likable and popular candidate who has not been reprimanded for racist comments yet, is likely going to stay for the Republicans. In the state of Minnesota, a very competitive state. I think it's going to be quite difficult to predict. Minnesota's 1st and 8th, I have a feeling that the Minnesota's 1st is going to flip to blue. I don't know why, but it was super close in 2018, and with Minnesota likely going to be going to Joe Biden potentially even by double digits, I have a feeling that it's going to flip to blue. However, the 8th Congressional District is going to stay Republican. And the 2nd and 7th districts are also going to likely stay blue. I know Colin Peterson, he is in a district that went to Trump by over 30 points back in 2016, but he was also on that ballot back in 2016 and still won his seat. So just because of that, I am going to have him win his seat because he has proven that he can win when Trump is on the ballot. Going over to Nebraska 2nd, I also think that this is going to be a Democratic flip. Because Don Bacon and Cara Eastman back in 2018 were quite close, and in recent polling, Nebraska's 2nd Congressional District on the presidential level has been going to Joe Biden by quite a decent margin. So because of that, I think it's going to lead Cara Eastman to victory. The state of Missouri, the 2nd Congressional District, I also think this is going to stay in the Republican column, going to stay with the incumbent. In Kansas's 3rd and 2nd Congressional Districts, they were both very close back in 2018. David's actually winning by almost 10 points, though, which is absolutely insane due to the fact that this is a flip. Kansas's 2nd Congressional District, though, was only within less than a percentage point. So I also think that there has been recent polling in Kansas. De La Isla, I believe that's how you say it, versus La Turner. It's basically within 1 point. It's within the margin of error. This is quite a good sample size, and it's by a I'm not entirely sure who this is meant for, but I have a feeling that both of these states are actually going to be Democratic, having another Democratic flip for tonight. But coming from a Democratic flip, we're going to go to a Republican flip. The state of, Oklahoma's 5th Congressional District. Kendra Horn kind of won in 2018 by a surprise. No one really thought that she was going to win, and she did. So the Republicans are now really out. I believe that they are out fundraising her. They're really focusing on this district as they're like, oh no, Oklahoma's going blue. So they're likely going to try and flip the seat back to red. Going to the state of Texas, another battleground state for the 2020 election. Will Hurd is not running for for re-election, and because of that, it's going to likely flip to blue as well. In many others, however, a lot of these very lean red states are likely going to stay red. The state of Texas is quite gerrymandered, and because of this, even though Democrats may be inching up the margins, until a 2020 redistricting or a more fair district or a super great candidate will help lead them on these down ballot races, they're likely not going to remain. Dan Crenshaw has made a name for himself, so he's also going to keep his district. Texas is 7th, going to remain with the incumbent. 22nd remain with the incumbent. However, the 32nd and the 24th, I have a feeling they're both going to be blue. The 24th, my justification for that is that it was really close back in 2018, and this is within the suburbs where Joe Biden has been performing quite well in recent polling, especially with white suburban moms. So because of that, I'm flipping it blue. And Texas's 3rd is also going to be red. Going to New Mexico. So I believe that for New Mexico over here, they have this as a likely Democratic district back in 2018. It was again super close. It was only decided with about 4,000 votes. However, Torres Small is the incumbent, and I have a feeling that she's going to pull out a victory. In the state of Colorado, only one somewhat competitive district. Even with that, Scott Tipton has been outed and replaced with a more Trumpian candidate, and because of that, she's probably going to win. The state of Utah is likely also going to have another Republican flip for tonight. Ben McAdams, he has been making another name for himself. I believe he voted against the articles of impeachment. He did get tested with COVID, which has been allowing him to make a more effective case for him trying to combat COVID. But despite that, I have a feeling that he is not going to win re-election. Also in the state of Arizona, the 6th Congressional District likely going to say Republican, and the 1st and 2nd are also going to likely say Democrat. And in the state of Nevada, the 4th and 3rd Congressional Districts are going to say Democrat. They went to the Democrats by quite a decent margins back in 2018, and I don't think that this is in no means a Republican wave year such as 2014. So likely going to say with their respective parties. The state of Alaska, this is going to be quite weird. I think it is going to say with the Republicans, but this might be one of the closest races of the night. Don Young is, I believe he's one of the oldest serving members of Congress. He's been in here since, I believe, 1976, I think it is. So because of that, his challenger was quite close back in 2018 by about, give or take, 6 points. And she has been out fundraising him, so I have a feeling that she may win, but at this point in time, it's going to be for the Republican. California's 50th, I have a feeling that it's likely going to remain Republican. Amar Campanayar, he was formerly one of the progressive candidates, and he did narrow down the margin by a lot on election day than what was originally predicted. But I have a feeling that his pivoting has kind of ruined his chances in a way, because it shows that he may not be so genuine in his points, and it's going to say Republican. Also going to say Republican is California's 25th Congressional District. There was a special election earlier this year where the Republican won by basically 10 points, which is crazy considering the fact that Democrats tend to do very well in special elections. However, they did not, and because of that, I have a feeling that the Republican is again going to win. I also think the Republicans are going to keep California's 1st, 4th, and 22nd congressional districts. Devin Nunes, a very prominent Republican figure, along with other California Republicans, becoming more of a minority in the state even further, but furthermore, I think that it's going to stay like that. However, California's 10th and 21st are also going to stay Democratic, 21st being very close in 2018. Them are actually originally calling it for the incumbent, but flipping to Cox later on. But yeah, going over to the state of Washington, I have a feeling that the 5th and 3rd congressional districts, they were somewhat close in 2018, but I have a feeling they're still going to stay for the Republicans, along with the 8th actually saying for the Democrats. Out of the state of Montana, I forget who's actually who are the candidates, but JHK has this not necessarily as a competitive race, and it was somewhat competitive back in 2018 with Greg Gianforte at the top, but very narrowly winning. Again, I think this is going to go to the Republicans by another very narrow margin. So now that we have no more competitive states, this is basically my 2020 House map. I believe, yeah, so the Democrats basically improved on their majority by a couple seats. But then again, the Republicans did flip a lot of seats that the Democrats won in 2018. However, the Democrats did also flip a bunch of seats on their own. So, yeah. This is my current projection. If you agree, let me know in the comments below. If you disagree, let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe, and thank you.